Beautiful people. So we are sitting in between, roundabout in between the new moon and spring equinox, and I just felt it was a really beautiful time to be able to connect with all of you. I have a story to share with you. Stories, I find them, they break through and they push through when I'm consulting. And quite often, stories that come from direct experience can hold powerful messages. And if we kind of look, we kind of look behind us and we look within the culture of our ancestors, stories were used to kind of weave the teachings. They were to carry the teachings from one generation to the next, and it's like a continuous thread that moves through time, and alongside that new stories are born. And I think that that's absolutely where we're sitting right now. We're on the cusp of this new moon here in March, and we're approaching the equinox. There are new stories that are going to be born that are anchored and rooted in the old stories and in the old world. There's such a feeling of emergence, and when I look out into the world and I look into the lives of those people that I'm really honoured and those people that I'm really blessed to work with, I'm seeing those new stories take hold within their lives. They're making huge fundamental changes, changes that they've been wanting to make maybe for years, maybe even for decades. And there's some real incredible powerful shifts and transitions happening. And when I look into the lives of those that I hold dear, there's similar stories occurring. And then I look into the world and I see those communities. There is a real emergence of sharing skills, wisdom, knowledge. Recently I traded my services with a blacksmith, and I will share a little bit more about that in a future video, in a future story. And that was a really incredible gift, an incredible journey. I've been through quite a transition. As many of you know, I had the problem there of my right eye, and it took me into a space to kind of really kind of go quite deep and quite still, and then what's kind of broke through and what's come to light is a deeper understanding on my heritage, my roots, my family roots, and there's so much that has been born out of that. Many of you know, I've had a relationship with the runes for the best part of 25 years, and here I am within the next 6-7 weeks. I'm approaching my 50th year, so that's half of my life that the runes have been a part and parcel of my journey. Yet I've been blessed to have a deeper understanding of my heritage and roots, which has only just come about weeks ago, and it's answered a lot of questions. So there is this deep feeling of the roots and the threads that run back through time are kind of overlapping now, and from that something new is being born. And I think that's incredibly powerful. As I say, when I look out into those communities and see people sharing real knowledge and wisdom and skills in the most tangible of ways, which has been held, passed down, handed down through the elders and those people that have really lived and breathed it, and then it's been passed down, and it's kind of, you know, being rediscovered, but maybe even not rediscovered. I think the word is remembered. That's, you know, and that's a beautiful thing. So I'm seeing so much of that happening, and I think that that is the birthing for this spring equinox, you know. And the other thing is, you know, equinox, absolutely, you know, the meaning is to stand still. It's a sense of balance, and that's the thing, is that, you know, in my recent newsletter, I shared that, you know, when I hear people say, oh, you know, things will be back to normal soon, and I'm like, well, define normal, and define, is that the right choice, in the sense of go back to normal, because for me normal was very much out of balance. How we were living pre this global event was probably not sustainable, at an individual level, when I think that so many people I knew at that time, those people that I'm really gifted and blessed to work with, so many of those people were kind of waking up on a Monday morning, sitting on the edge of their bed with their hands on their head, saying to themselves, I don't know for how much longer I can continue to do this, living life at this pace. And, you know, we were living in a time where stress-based illness become the norm, because it really did become the norm, and it was normalised. And what that was so many people were having a sense of heightened anxiety, rushing around and continuously overstimulated, and being in fight or flight. And a rest and digest, a rest and repair, was just being overrun. You know, we were being overstimulated. We didn't know the real meaning of rest and repair, rest and digest, because we're living in a world that has probably devalued some of the most important things. And that's what I'm seeing resurface, and people retaking ownership of those things that have been devalued, yet are so essential to life and well-being and all of what is good and great in this world. You know, we've as a society, we've really devalued some of the most really important core aspects of what it means to be human. You know, how many people, when you kind of bumped into them pre this, would say to you, you know, you'd say, how are you? And they say, yeah, just busy. It become an automatic response, and maybe it also did become literally an automatic response. So I kind of feel that there is this resurfacing, and this grabbing hold of, and maybe realising what is of great value, and it is an opportunity. You know, we've had a stop and we've had a pause, and I think about, you know, that live stream I done. Many of you know the story of 2019 going into 2020 on winter solstice, where I was asked, you know, what's next, and I said, you know, I sense a cosmic pause coming, and from the death of an old world, a new world will be born, you know. And that was very, very powerful, and here we are. I think we're living it, you know. I don't say it lightly when I see those communities sharing real tangible wisdom and knowledge and skills and expertise. You know, people sitting in circles, maybe not literally at this time, but people sitting in circles and kind of sharing those skills and wisdom and those stories. You know, it's very, very powerful. You know, people growing food together and healing together, and sharing stories together, and living in a way that is in harmony with their rhythm, and in harmony of the land beneath their feet. You know, it's a beautiful thing to see. You know, when we go back through the thread of time, when we were hunters and gatherers, fight and flight was used to be able to go out and hunt, be able to go out and gather. You know, you needed your heightened sense of awareness to be able to kind of to go and do those things. And then what would happen is you would bring back the hunt, you'd bring back what you had gathered, and then you'd prepare that together as a community, and then you would rest by the fire, and you would move into rest and repair. You know, there's a cycle, there's a spiral, there's a flow. But for us in the modern age, we're constantly just overstimulated. So there is this deeper, slower rhythm that is being birthed into people's awareness and people's consciousness, and it's grabbing hold. I'm seeing it everywhere, and this sense of really being present with people and each other, and what a beautiful thing that is. So today's video, we're on the cusp of the new moon. I thought it was a potent time to weave some magic, and I'm going to pull a rune for you, and I want to share a story with you. I feel that stories are going to be kind of woven in, and I have a few to come in future videos that is going to share some of the rich tapestry of the shift that I've been in, and some of the discoveries I found within my ancestry, that is brought such a deep meaning for me. Like I say, you know, I've the runes have been a big part of my life for the last 25 years. I'm approaching my 50th year in April, and to now discover my ancestry just joins everything up. It's left me with a deeper sense of belonging, to know that what I've been doing and what I am doing and what I've done comes from a place of, as I said before, is that you don't just kind of birth into this life and sometimes do some of the things that we do. It's as if it's come from a deeper place. It's like that knowledge and wisdom is flowing along a thread that comes from a deeper place. And for me, you'll see as I share it as we go forwards. But the story I'm going to share for now, spring equinox, is if you can kind of picture this, we go back through time, many moons back, yet it was close to a new moon many moons back, and it was a dark night, the night before the new moon. And those of you that know about the moon cycles, you know, you go out on the night before a new moon, the sky is dark, and it was the eve of the new moon, approaching the spring equinox. And a lady, she had called for the seer, the shaman, seer, witch, Seban, vulva in many traditions. And she calls for the seer, the shaman, the witch, the Seban, the vulva, to attend the family. She was going into childbirth. She was going into birthing, into labour. And the seer, the shaman, the witch, appeared with her cloak wrapped around her, carrying her staff, and a shoulder bag carrying oils and ointments and herbs. And she approached the dwelling, and she entered into the dwelling, and it was very dark, just candles alight, the hearth was alight, but the sky was dark, there were no stars at all. And it was at a time where there was lots of dis-ease, there was lots of disharmony. The land and its people had gone through a time of real discord and imbalance, not dissimilar to the time that we're living now. It's just that it would have been a lot harder back then. that is for sure. And she attended the midwife, the seer, the witch, the vulva, the shaman, the sea band. She attended the lady, and some of the other family were gathered around the hearth, and it was a brutal labour. And the seer, she walked her through that journey, and the seers of old, they were midwives. They were the midwives. They would see people into the world, and they would see them out of the world. They were the midwives of both gateways, of both doorways. And she walked her through that journey, and the child was born. The child was born, and she was born with a full head of hair. A full head of pure white hair, like snow and like ice. And the mother gasped. She gasped in disbelief. She gasped in fear. She gasped in pain, and she began to sob and cry. And that cry and those tears were really deep. They were really painful, because she knew that she would not be able to keep this child. This child was born with a full head of white hair, with deep blue eyes. And she knew she wouldn't be able to keep her, because the rest of the family were of raven hair. And she knew that the child would be feared. She knew that the other kinfolk, the elders and the tribespeople would fear her. They would fear her difference. They would scorn her, and that her and her family will be outcast, potentially by the tribe and the clan. So the mother pleaded with the seer, and the seer knew what was needed, that she would take the child in and take her back to the sanctuary of the sisterhood. And the sisterhood was indeed that. It was a group of incredibly wise women, priestesses, who were healers, herbalists, seers, midwives, who had restored the wisdom from the generations before, and it was being passed on. And they knew that this child, the seer could see who this child was, could see that her difference was her strength, and knew that she was being born into a time of great darkness. And here she was being born with this pure white hair. She was born of light, with these clear blue eyes, and she was the light within the darkness. She was the difference that would go on to become the strength. So her difference was going to become her strength. So they knew to take her in, and she was going to become the reweaver of the balance that was required and needed within the world. And here's the thing: if we take a moment right now, and we think about what balance may be required in your life right now, as we approach equinox, which is equal hours of light and equal hours of darkness, there's potent magic here to weave and to craft and to perform. Is how can you get behind the balance that is required and needed within your life? What is it that you can do to bring your life more into balance? How can you craft that? How can you weave that? Or another way to frame that question is, with your hand on your heart, taking a deep breath, ask yourself, what is required? What is needed at this time? What do you need at this time? What is required? And that's the thing, is that if we're to move from harm to healing and we look out into the world, we've only got to ask what is required, what is needed. You think that pre this global event is that the world and the collective of humanity was deeply asking to be rebalanced. We've fallen off the wheel. That wheel that moves is a spiral that goes round. It's not like a straight line. We live with this concept of a straight line, that it's linear, and it isn't. It's a spiral, and we've fallen off the spiral. We've fallen off the wheel. And how can we move back into the wheel? Because the wheel flows, it moves, it dances like a spiral. And that's what the message is from this story. And the little girl with the white hair like snow and ice, with the clear blue eyes, she grew into a very wise, gentle and powerful healer. She was nurtured. Her message is that at times our difference is our strength, and nurture and nourishment and belonging are incredible things. They're really, really powerful things. So how can we bring that sense of belonging into our lives? And that's the other thing. I think we're moving in a time where we're birthing into community, into understanding that the I, when we move it into the we. And that's the other thing, when I share with you about my family ancestry, why the we is so vitally important to me, and community, it will make sense to you as it does me. But how can we move from the I to the we? And that's what I'm seeing is out there in the world, is there is this real shift into understanding that, you know, to grow a garden, we can achieve so much more together. To work as a community, we can achieve so much more together. You know, where's your roots? Where's your anchoring? Where's your belonging? What clan, kin, tribe do you belong to? And what stories do you have within your ancestry, and how those stories can be brought forward to now, and how can we further move from harm to healing? How can we further move into balance? And that is some of the message from this story, and from this little girl when she was named Gudrun, which means God Rune. Gudrun, which means God Rune. And as I say, she became a wise healer, teacher, shaman, witch, seer, midwife of the both gates. So, on that note, hope you've enjoyed that. On that note, let's put a rune. The light's changing. It's this spring has been an interesting one. It's been a mixture of all those threads of light, extremely beautiful, what you would consider spring days, and also of darkness, of hail and storms. For us here on the UK, it's a little reminder that we live on an island and we're surrounded by sea, because the weather has been wild in the last 24 hours. So I'm going to pull a rune for you all. take a moment actually and pause and listen to what we're doing and calling upon the old ones, the ancient ones, the wise ones. I humbly call upon you, Odin and Freya and Bridget. I ask that you share your wisdom at this time for our clan, kin and community. Okay, I was searching around in that bag there, okay? Did you see that? If some of my dear friends are watching this, they're going to absolutely know what this rune is. It's the innate sense of humour. This is known as the blank rune. Furthermore, it is known as Odin's rune. You heard me call humbly call upon Odin. There's clues here to what I've discovered within my ancestry. Odin and Freya, some people go, Greek goddess. No, I'm referring to Freya, from the Nordic tradition, who's often seen with a green cloak, and having a deep understanding of Norse magic. And the stories say that she was married to Odin. So Odin, Freya, personal kind of connections with them. They have been within my world for as long as I can remember. At times on the edge, but yet fully present. And then Bridget, that also has been there, and she is there behind me on the wall as well, honouring my Irish ancestry, but links to a spirit guide portrait that was in my last videos. But this is incredible. Okay, so the blank rune has appeared. Okay, incredible, and it is known as Odin's rune, and it is the void. Okay, so it's that void of, it's the birthing. That's exactly what it is. It's the place in between worlds. It is the space between worlds. It is the absolute realm of possibility. It is the unknown and the known all at the same time. It is that sense of birthing into vast, incredible possibilities. Okay, and it is that sense of, from that emptiness becomes wholeness, and that may be some of what you've experienced. There's been like a shedding. A snake sheds its skin, thank you. A snake sheds its skin to be reborn. Okay, so you may have experienced a shedding within your life as well, over these weeks, months, and this last year and beyond. And that is absolutely right. A snake sheds its skin to be reborn. What's going on in the world is a shedding. You know, this is a very powerful message, and also that is absolutely Odin's sense of humour at work. As if to say, I am here, I am present. And he's a powerful storyteller. He enjoyed mead around the fire, telling stories and tales of his journeys. He's known as the Wanderer, and he absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, is a shaman, seer, and deeply working with the runes and Norse magic. So I am absolutely honoured and blown away that rune has shown up. Okay, I am going to leave all that with you. I would say to you, contemplate what that means to you, meditate on it, meditate, and a way of meditating on that is to see yourself looking into a pool of water. Just looking into a pool of water. What do you see in it? What do you see the other side of that pool of water? What comes to you? And again, within the stories, pool of water, or the well, sat under Yggdrasil, the well tree. Sit, visualize yourself looking into a pool of water or looking into a well. What is it that you see? What is the wisdom of this blank rune? What is the wisdom of Odin's rune? I'm going to leave that with you. I'd love to hear your experiences. I'd love to hear your comments. Until next time, keep shining. Speak soon.